ESPN just dropped a massive report on the San Francisco 49ers and what they're planning to do this offseason. And I have to tell you everything they said, because this is going to completely change how you think about this team's future. The analysts at SportsCenter, First Take, Get Up, and NFL Live have all been breaking down the 49ers situation, and their predictions are absolutely wild. We're talking major injury updates, coaching changes, free agency targets, and a complete rebuild of certain position groups. Let me walk you through everything ESPN covered, because if you're a 49ers fan, you need to hear this. The ESPN coverage started with what they called the best news 49ers fans have heard in months. George Kittle's injury update. According to their report, Kittle said his Achilles surgery went as well as possible. The tear itself was high on the tendon, which is apparently ideal because no damage extended to his heel. He's in great spirits and will be ready to start attacking rehab in about a week. The ESPN analysts spent a significant amount of time explaining why this matters so much. When Kittle went down and everyone saw it was an Achilles rupture, the assumption was that he would miss the entire 2026 season. That's typically what happens with Achilles injuries, especially for a player who relies so much on explosiveness and physicality like Kittle does. But now, according to ESPN, it looks like Kittle is probably going to play next season. They even said he might have a long shot at being ready for Week 1. That's incredible news for a team that absolutely cannot win a championship without their offensive leader. The ESPN crew then shifted to Fred Warner, and the news there was equally encouraging. According to their report, Warner said his ankle will not require any extra procedures or surgeries moving forward. Instead of continuing the accelerated rehab process he was pushing to try to play again this year, he can now slow things down and really work on all the little things he didn't get to work on before the injury happened. Warner was quoted saying, "It's just business as usual now." The ESPN analysts made a really important point about these two players that I think gets overlooked sometimes. Yes, Kittle and Warner are elite players on the field. Their production is massive, but it's more than that. These are the two guys who define the identity of this team. They're the leaders. They're the heart and soul. They're the players who unite the fan base and make the 49ers faithful, actually faithful. Having both of them in line to be back for Week 1 next year is huge for this organization. But then ESPN shifted to the bad news, and this is where the segment got really interesting. Robert Saleh is gone. He's officially been hired as the head coach of the Tennessee Titans. The ESPN analysts talked about how everyone saw this coming, but nobody wanted to accept it. Saleh brought something special to this team. His energy on the sideline, his ability to connect with players, his defensive mind. Losing him hurts, even if it was expected. And here's where it gets worse. ESPN reported that the Raiders have requested permission to interview Clay Kubiak, the 49ers offensive coordinator, for their head coaching vacancy. So the 49ers might lose both coordinators in the same offseason. The ESPN analysts said, if that happens, it's a tough pill to swallow. That's a lot of coaching turnover for a team trying to win a Super Bowl. But the ESPN crew quickly pivoted to how the 49ers might handle this situation, and they had some really interesting thoughts on potential replacements. The name that kept coming up more than any other was Raheem Morris. Morris just got fired as head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. Before that, he was the defensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams during their Super Bowl run. He knows the NFC West inside and out. According to ESPN, Kyle Shanahan is expected to go all in on Raheem Morris as defensive coordinator. The reasoning makes a lot of sense. Morris was in the NFC West for 3 seasons. He went to a Super Bowl and won it with the Rams. He knows the Seattle offense. He knows the 49ers offense. He knows the Rams offense. He knows the Cardinals offense. If you can get someone who understands every team in your division that well, that's a massive advantage. The ESPN analysts also talked about how close Shanahan and Morris are personally. They've worked together before. Shanahan has spoken glowingly about Morris in the past. There's trust there. And after what happened with Steve Wilks and Nick Sorensen, Shanahan probably wants someone he knows and trusts. rather than taking a risk on an unknown commodity. There was also some discussion about Mike McDaniel potentially returning to San Francisco, but ESPN reported that, as of their latest information, McDaniel appears to be headed to the Los Angeles Chargers to reunite with Jim Harbaugh. So if you're a 49ers fan hoping for that reunion, it seems unlikely at this point. The ESPN analysts said to hold out some hope, but the Chargers appear to be the frontrunner for McDaniel's services. The ESPN coverage then shifted to the roster itself and the holes that need to be filled. This is where the analysis got really detailed and, honestly, pretty eye-opening. The analysts talked about how one of the glaring issues this season was that Christian McCaffrey had nowhere to run. All season long, McCaffrey was getting hit behind the line of scrimmage. He averaged under 4 yards per carry. No big plays. He took a beating out there, even though he still managed 1,000 scrimmage yards. The conclusion from ESPN was clear. The 49ers need to bolster their offensive line. They mentioned Tyler Linderbaum from the Ravens as a player fans have been calling for, but they also pointed out that the 49ers have a lot of money already tied up, so they suggested a more realistic target in Elijah Vera Tucker from the New York Jets. The ESPN analysts broke down why Vera Tucker makes sense. He was a first-round pick, somewhere around the 14th overall selection. He's been injured, which unfortunately fits right in with the 49ers roster at this point, but because of those injuries, the 49ers could potentially sign him for a decent price and slot him in at left guard. He has the talent to be a difference maker if he can stay healthy. And the 49ers desperately need help on that offensive line. ESPN also talked about speed and how the 49ers' lack of it really showed up in the playoffs, particularly against the Seahawks. They pulled up a stat that I found absolutely shocking. The 49ers' 3 fastest ball carriers in the playoffs were Jawan Jennings, Skyway Moore, and Brock Purdy. When your fastest ball carrier ran a 4:48 40-yard dash, your next fastest ran a 4:72. And that's the best you've got. You need to add speed to this offense immediately. The ESPN analysts suggested looking at Alec Pierce from the Indianapolis Colts as a potential target. Pierce had career highs this season with 47 catches, 103 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Those aren't crazy numbers in terms of volume, but when you look at what Pierce brings to the table, it makes sense. He's a deep threat. He's fast. He's a vertical weapon. The 49ers don't really have that right now. If you bring Pierce in alongside guys like Kittle when healthy, and potentially bring back Jennings, suddenly you've got some speed and explosiveness in that offense. ESPN also mentioned Romeo Doubs from the Green Bay Packers as another receiver option. The Packers have an embarrassment of riches at the receiver position. Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, they just drafted Matthew Golden. They've got Dontavian Wicks. Even Tucker Kraft is an incredible pass catcher. With that many mouths to feed, Doubs is going to be a free agent, and it's hard to imagine he's going to be very high on Green Bay's priority list. The ESPN analysts said Doubs makes a lot of sense for the 49ers. He's not as fast as Alec Pierce. He's not as much of a vertical threat, but he's a dog. He's a really good wide receiver who can win contested catches and move the chain. The 49ers need availability at that position. Brandon Ayuk is gone. Jennings has been good, but he's been in and out of the lineup. Ricky Pearsall misses games and stretches. They need guys who can actually be on the field consistently. The ESPN coverage then shifted to the defensive side of the ball, and this is where the analysis got really interesting. The analysts talked about how if you watched any game this season, especially in the playoffs, the 49ers generated almost no pass rush. There was no pressure on Sam Darnold when they played the Vikings. There was no pressure on Jalen Hurts against the Eagles. Quarterbacks had all day to throw. Now ESPN acknowledged that getting Nick Bosa and Mike Williams back will naturally help fix some of that. But they made a comparison to the Philadelphia Eagles that I thought was brilliant. The Eagles destroyed the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Mahomes was under insane pressure all game. And Philadelphia never blitzed. They rushed 4 on almost every play. Jalen Carter and those interior guys got so much pressure that it completely crumbled the Chiefs' offense. The point ESPN was making is that you can never have enough pass rush. You can never have too much defensive line talent, and the 49ers should be looking to add more, even beyond just getting healthy. They mentioned Trey Hendrickson from the Cincinnati Bengals as a potential target. Hendrickson has had problems with the Bengals front office over his contract. A year ago, he was the sacks leader in the NFL. Yes, he's in his early 30s, but the 49ers window is closing. Fred Warner and Nick Bosa aren't getting any younger. You have to go for it one more time. Take a big swing. Bring in a game-changing pass rusher. The ESPN analysts painted a picture of what that defensive line could look like. Bosa on one side, Hendrickson on the other. Mike Williams coming back. That's an insane pass rush that could terrorize quarterback. And you need that caliber of defensive line to compete in the NFC West, because those teams aren't going anywhere. The Rams' front four alone is brutal, with Jared Verse and Byron Young. Winning 10 or 11 games next season isn't going to win this division. ESPN also suggested the 49ers look at linebacker help. Eric Kendricks and Garrett Wallow played really well at the end of the year and in the playoffs, but the analysts said that's not sustainable. That was a good week. Some good luck. Kendricks is a great linebacker, but he's older. Wallow is okay. Tatum Bethune hits hard, but gets burned in coverage and seems like he doesn't always know where he's supposed to be. Devondre Winters has similar issue. The name ESPN threw out was Key Walker from the Green Bay Packers. The Packers have linebackers. They've got Ed Jaron Cooper, Isaiah McDuffie, and others. Walker is a free agent. According to ESPN, Walker reminds them of Dre Greenlaw. He's a really good coverage linebacker who also hits hard. He's a ball-hawking, hard-hitting linebacker. You put him next to Fred Warner, and that's a problem for opposing offenses. The final position ESPN addressed was the secondary. They mentioned how the 49ers don't have a veteran presence back there right now. Upton Stout is a dog at 5'9" and 185 pounds, but he's still young. Jair Brown has had his moments. Malik Mustafa has shown flashes, but there's no experienced leader in that secondary. ESPN suggested the 49ers look at Jamal Dean or another veteran secondary presence to stabilize that unit. Having an experienced voice back there can help the young guys develop faster and make fewer mental mistakes. It's a relatively cheap addition that could pay huge dividends. The ESPN analysts wrapped up their coverage by painting a picture of what the 49ers' off-season wish list should look like. Alec Pierce or Romeo Doubs at receiver. Trey Hendrickson to boost the pass rush. Quay Walker at linebacker. Jamal Dean or another veteran in the secondary. And Elijah Vera Tucker on the offensive line. If the 49ers can hit on even half of those additions while getting their injured players back, they're right back in Super Bowl contention. The overall message from ESPN was cautiously optimistic. Yes, losing Robert Saleh hurts. Yes, they might lose Clay Kubiak too, but they still have Kyle Shanahan. They still have Brock Purdy. They still have their playmakers. Fred Warner and George Kittle are coming back. There is light at the end of this tunnel. This offseason is going to be crazy, and the moves the 49ers make over the next few months will determine whether they're legitimate Super Bowl contenders or just another good team that falls short. So what do you think about ESPN's analysis? Do you agree with their assessment of the 49ers' needs? Which free agent target are you most excited about? Let me know in the comments because I genuinely want to hear your thoughts on this. Drop a like if you found this breakdown helpful and want me to keep covering the 49ers offseason. There's going to be a lot of news and movement in the coming weeks, and I want to make sure you're up to date on everything that's happening. Until next time, take care of yourselves.